Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. At least 40 Indian nationals killed in Kuwait building fire. India's Minister of State for External Affairs reaches the Gulf state. An Indian Air Force plane on standby to bring the mortal remains. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to leave for G7 summit in Italy. It will be the first overseas visit of his third term. India's top court reiterates that counselling for the NEET undergraduate examination will go on, allows a retest on 23rd of June for 1,563 students who were awarded grace marks. The presidents of the US and Ukraine to sign a security deal in Italy as G7 leaders agree to use Russian cash to help Kyiv. In a tragic incident, more than 40 Indian nationals were killed in a building fire in Kuwait. India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirtivardan Singh, has reached Kuwait following a direction from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, primarily to oversee assistance to the Indians injured in the fire. Talking to journalists, the minister said a DNA test was being conducted to identify the victims. He informed that an Indian Air Force plane was on standby to bring the mortal remains of the dead back to India.
The situation is that the victims are mostly burn victims, and some of the bodies have been charred beyond recognition. So a DNA test is underway to identify the victims, and the Air Force plane is on the ready. And as soon as the bodies are identified, the kin will be informed, and our Air Force plane will bring the bodies back. The latest figures that we had last night, the casualty figures are around 48, 49, out of which 42 or 43 are believed to be our countrymen Indians.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed the situation on Wednesday after a fire broke out in a building in Kuwait, killing at least 40 Indian nationals and injuring more than 50. The Prime Minister condoled the families of the deceased. He wished a speedy recovery to those injured. He announced an ex gratia of 200,000 rupees each, that is $1,400 each, for the families of the deceased. The government of the southern Indian state of Kerala has convened an emergency meeting on the incident. The meeting, chaired by Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, was convened to discuss about the steps to be taken in view of the Kuwait building fire. Meanwhile, the inauguration of a global diaspora of people hailing from the state of Kerala has been called off in view of the incident. The conference was to be held in the state capital of Thiruvananthapuram from Thursday to Saturday. And Akshay Dongre joins us from New Delhi for more. Akshay, what more can you tell us about the incident? Any update on the casualties and the injured?
Well, thankfully there is no update, in fact, in the number of people who have lost their lives due to this tragic fire. However, what we are getting to hear from the Indian government as far as the preparations are concerned is not only centered at providing relief to the immediately affected people due to this fire, but also to the larger Indian diaspora that is working in these countries and the kind of threats that they may be facing there right now. In fact, along with this incident that has taken place, the government is trying to ensure that no such similar incident takes place in future ever again, and that is why from bringing back the mortal remains to having a funeral here in the country, to ensuring that the people who are there are provided with the best of health assistance by the government of Kuwait as well. So all of these things have been discussed. An ex gratia amount of rupees 2 lakh per deceased has also been announced by Prime Minister from the PM Relief Fund, and all of these steps are also being taken to ensure that the identification of all the deceased take place in an accurate manner through DNA testing. So all of these measures are being taken place, but as far as the injured are concerned in Kuwait, from what we are getting to hear from our sources in the country, is that they are getting best of all assistance that can be provided in the country, as it has been requested by the government of India to the government of Kuwait. And at the highest level, the leaders of both the countries are ensuring that everything goes seamlessly as far as bringing back of the mortal remains are concerned, and providing the healthcare assistance to the injured people is concerned. Back to you.
And very quickly, before we let you go, Akshay, what are you learning about the Minister of State Kirti Vardhan Singh's visit to Kuwait?
Well, it shows, in fact, the kind of seriousness with which Indian government is viewing this incident. Within hours of getting to know about this incident, the Minister of State for External Affairs, Mr. Kirti Vardhan Singh, went to Kuwait, and he's there right now. In fact, immediately after the fire broke out and the news came out, the Indian ambassador to Kuwait also took stock of situation and has been in touch with the highest authorities as far as the tragic incident is concerned.
All right, we leave it at that. Akshay, thank you. Akshay Dongre reporting on the unfortunate incident that happened in Kuwait on Wednesday, in which at least 40 Indian nationals have been reported dead. Right, and let me get you some more updates, this time from my colleague Stuart Smith, who joins us from Baghdad in Iraq. Stuart, what are you learning from the Kuwaiti authorities about the incident?
So we understand from Kuwait this morning, the Minister of State has arrived to help organise the repatriation of the mortal remains of the people that died in this fire. Consider that around a quarter of the occupants of that building died in the fire, 56 were injured, so another quarter injured in a blaze which is being suspected to be the result of violations in the housing code in Kuwait. The latest numbers have just come out from Kuwait about who and how many and to what extent the injuries are. 41 are apparently injured and have had to undertake surgery, orthopedics as well as invasive surgery. 9 remain in intensive care, and 11, some good news, 11 have been discharged from hospital. So those 9, though, the most concerning situation now, as they remain in intensive care. Most of these people, Kuwaiti authorities say, suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning, smoke inhalation, but also broken bones as they tried to escape. Which brings us to the investigation. The head of the fire department investigating this fire has said himself that he believes there were violations, to the extent that his own firemen were injured when trying to get these people out. He said 4 firefighters suffered injuries when they tried to enter the building, which had locked doors, which meant people couldn't get to the roof, and nor could people get out on the ground floor. The head of the investigation also said, and this is preliminary information, but said that the walls between rooms were filled with flammable material. That's the cause of all that black smoke you may have seen in that inferno yesterday. As to the investigation to see if there are any other apartments in Kuwait like this surprise investigation announced yesterday, going on this morning, Kuwaiti municipal authorities say they have so far inspected 95 buildings. In doing so, they have found 21 basement violations. This audit is ongoing. They are hoping to find all violations, and they are also trying to let people be aware in Kuwait that there is now a hotline for reporting any violations if there are any others that feel they are living in unsafe conditions.
All right, Stuart, thank you. We'll leave it at that. Stuart, thank you very much. Stuart Smith reporting there from Baghdad in Iraq. So as Stuart was reporting there, at least 9 Indian nationals are still in the intensive care unit at various hospitals in the city, but 11 Indian nationals have since been discharged. We'll get you more on that as we go along. In other news, Prime Minister Modi of India will leave for Italy on Thursday to attend a G7 summit. He will hold a bilateral meeting with Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The Group of Seven is a grouping of the world's 7 most developed economies. It comprises Italy, Germany, Canada, France, the United Kingdom, the United States, Japan as well. Amritpal Singh has more.
Mr. Narendra Modi will arrive here in Borgo in Nasia for a day-long trip to Italy. He's visiting Italy at the invitation of the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to participate in the 50th G7 summit. This is not the first time that India is participating in this summit. It's participated several times. In fact, this is India's 11th participation and Prime Minister Modi's 5th consecutive attendance at the G7 summit. India is not a member of the G7 but has been invited as a partner country. Prime Minister Modi will address an outreach session with other invited countries.
The visit assumes a significance as this will be Honourable Prime Minister's first overseas travel after assuming office in his 3rd consecutive term. It will also afford him an opportunity to engage with other world leaders present at the G7 summit on issues of importance to India as also to the global south. Prime Minister will participate in the outreach session along with the other countries invited for the outreach summit. At this session, the focus would be on artificial intelligence, energy, Africa and the Mediterranean.
Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Meloni are expected to hold a bilateral meeting where they will deliberate on the bilateral aspect of the relationship and chart a future course of collaboration.
There has been a very regular exchange of visits between the two countries in the last 2-3 years. As you know, Prime Minister Meloni herself had visited India twice last year. So the high-level political dialogue in itself is a big boost to the bilateral cooperation. It sends a signal that India and Italy take each other seriously, that they want to engage with each other in all domains.
The Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings with other world leaders that includes some of the leaders of G7 as well as some leaders of the participating partner countries. Though the G7's agenda is wide-ranging from climate change to development to food security to ongoing conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine-Russia conflict, but it is the Ukraine-Russia conflict that is set to dominate this summit as President Zelensky is here and his meeting with President Biden would be closely watched even as he makes a strong pitch for funding from the West to fund its war chest. With cameraman Shailendra Chauhan, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Apulia, Italy.
The Indian government on Thursday told the country's top court that it has decided to cancel the grace marks awarded to 1,563 NEET UG 2024 candidates in the NEET UG 2024 results. The government added that these 1,563 students will be given an option to take a retest of the result will be calculated on marks obtained without grace marks. Retest is likely to take place on the 23rd of June and the results will come out before the 1st of July. The top court also ordered that all petitions alleging paper leak and unfair means to be tagged together and to be heard on the 8th of July. BJP leader Pema Khandu took oath as Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh for a 3rd consecutive term on Thursday. A swearing-in ceremony held in Itanagar was attended by Ministers Amit Shah, JP Nadda, Kiren Rijiju and Assam's Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma. Khandu became Chief Minister for the first time in 2016. He was re-elected as the leader of BJP Legislature Party on Wednesday, paving the way for him to be sworn in as the Chief Minister. India's Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth on Thursday laid a wreath at National War Memorial in New Delhi. He paid homage to the fallen heroes before taking charge of his new portfolio. He is a BJP lawmaker from Ranchi in Jharkhand. Still to come on DD India Live. Gaza ceasefire plan hangs in balance as the US says Hamas has proposed some changes. The US Central Bank keeps key lending rate unchanged, one cut possible in 2024, down from the 3 expected in March. And the Olympic torch explores the secrets of a remote French island in the Indian Ocean.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken vowed on Wednesday to keep pressing to seal a Gaza ceasefire deal. He said that not all Hamas demands were acceptable, but voiced the hope that gaps could be closed. Consulting with key mediator Qatar on the Hamas response to US President Joe Biden's plan, Blinken said that Hamas could have given a clear and simple yes, but voiced guarded hope for moving forward.
So, we were waiting on one response, and that was the response from Hamas. And as the Prime Minister said, last night we received a response. Hamas has proposed numerous changes to the proposal that was on the table. We discussed those changes last night with Egyptian colleagues and today with the Prime Minister. Some of the changes are workable, some are not.
For its part, Hamas said on Tuesday that it was ready to deal positively with the process, but stressed the need for Israel to agree to a permanent ceasefire and full withdrawal from Gaza. The Israeli government did not comment, but an anonymous official said that the Palestinian armed group's response amounted to a rejection. Israel's Prime Minister has not publicly endorsed the proposal, which US President Joe Biden said had been offered by the country when he outlined it 12 days ago. But Blinken said Benjamin Netanyahu had reaffirmed his commitment during a meeting in Jerusalem on Monday. The UN Security Council also passed a resolution supporting the proposal that day, adding to the diplomatic pressure that Washington, D.C. is exerting. G7 leaders on Wednesday agreed to provide Ukraine with $50 billion via the use of frozen Russian assets by the end of 2024. The agreement was signed in France ahead of a G7 summit in Italy on Thursday that will focus on backing Kyiv's fight against Russia. G7 leaders had aimed to agree a deal on using the profits from the interest on $325 billion of frozen Russian central bank assets to help Kyiv, using the profits as collateral for a loan of up to $50 billion. U.S. President Joe Biden will sign a new security pact with Ukraine on Thursday to pledge the U.S.'s long-term support to the country. The U.S. President arrived in Italy on Wednesday for the annual G7 summit of leaders. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told journalists that the agreement will include a commitment to working with the U.S. legislature on funding Ukraine going forward. But the agreement will not commit to using U.S. forces on the ground. He said that 15 countries have signed the security agreement, which will strengthen Ukraine's defensive deterrence capability. British opposition Labour leader Keir Starmer will unveil his party's agenda for government on Thursday, putting wealth creation and economic growth at the heart of his speech to voters before a 4th July election. With 3 weeks to go before the election, Starmer is the latest leader to launch his party's manifesto, a blueprint for what Labour would do in government and one he described as setting out a total change in direction. Just 2 days after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak revealed $21.8 billion of tax cuts in his Conservative manifesto. It will also mark a clear break from Labour's long-held image of being a tax and spend party, a message that might further alienate those on the left of the party. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer were grilled by voters at a televised event on Wednesday, with both challenged over past decisions, pledges and how they would fund policies if they won the 4th July election. With just over 3 weeks until an election, opinion polls suggest Labour will easily win. Sunak was booed and heckled over doctor strikes, migration and his policy to introduce national service for young people. Starmer was taken to task for what one audience member said was his avoidance of answering questions and over his previous support of his predecessor, left-wing veteran Jeremy Corbyn. A poll taken after the event in the northern English town of Grimsby said 64% believed Starmer had won the event on a UK-based TV channel. In business news, the U.S. Central Bank announced its interest rate decision on Wednesday after a 2-day Federal Open Market Committee meeting, leaving the benchmark interest rates unchanged at 5.25%, 5.5% for the 7th straight meeting. The Fed decided to hold the federal funds rate after the Consumer Price Index reported that inflation was flat month over month in May, less than the expected 0.1% increase. In sports news, India confirmed a Super 8 spot, registering a 7-wicket win over United States at Nassau County International Cricket Stadium in New York City on Wednesday. Put into bat first, the Americans struggled as Arshdeep dismissed Shayan Jahangir and Andries Goose in the first over. But Steven Taylor and Nitish Kumar set the stage for a competitive total of 110 for 8. Meanwhile, India also struggled at the start, with Saurabh Netravalkar sending openers Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma back early. But Surya Kumar Yadav and Shivam Dube steadied the innings and got India over the line with 10 balls to spare. The US, second in Group A with 4 points after suffering their first loss in 3 matches, will also ensure qualification for the next round if they beat Ireland on Friday. The Olympic torch traversed through the remote French island of Réunion. Roughly 100 torch bearers carry the flame across the volcanic island with legendary handball player Daniel Narcisse. The Olympic cauldron will be lit at the opening ceremony on the 26th of July in Paris. And now to all the updates on the International Yoga Day, which will be celebrated on the 21st of June. In Sri Lanka, Swami Vivekananda Cultural Centre is observing the 10th International Day of Yoga with a 10-day-long yoga festival. The The first event of the festival was held on Thursday at the Colombo National Museum, with more than 200 children joining the yoga session. The event was supported by an Indian organization called the Sadgamaya Foundation and Mayurapati Sri Bhadrakali Temple in Colombo. Several events are lined up until the 22nd of June across the island. Mahesha, the founder of Sadgamaya Foundation, said with yoga helps in fusion of mind, body and soul.
Only when we do the yoga, we can bring that real alignment of body, mind and soul. Okay, so we are effectively putting that to, the awareness here. Going to 10 different locations in Sri Lanka, all the best of the locations in Sri Lanka, and it's completely organized by Indian Embassy. And each day we have a particular theme. Today we had a theme on yoga for women, and then we have the next day yoga for family, yoga for health, yoga for you can say mental health, and also creating the bigger awareness among the Sri Lankans and foreigners here.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download it. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.